Tonight on the Local Live, expect bag searches at Harbor Island. The Mamaroneck Playhouse will be for entertainment only. Amy Siskind talks to us about her book, The List, which chronicles Trump's first year. And we look at what Bruce Beck's sports broadcasting camp did here at LMC TV. Good evening, it's Thursday, August 2nd. I'm Kat Galliano and welcome to the Local Live. New signs at the entrance of Harbor Island Park warns bags and containers are now subject to search. Mamaroneck Village Police posted the signs, but there are no further details on why. Plans to build apartments above the refurbished Mamaroneck Playhouse with 6 movie screens are no longer in play. New plans call for 8 screens and no residences. The developer, Bluesies Real Estate, is awaiting a demolition permit. It will keep and repair many original details, including the exterior masonry. Last week, Mamaroneck Village released a 74-page analysis of its building department and land use boards. Matrix Consulting Group presented recommendations to the village board on Monday. There have been several controversies relating to the building department's operations. The consultants recommend the department make better use of technology, update its website, provide more online information on permits, applications, and code complaints. They also suggest additional training for staff and land use board members. The full report can be viewed at the Mamaroneck Village website. LOHUD is reporting the April death of Mamaroneck 2-year-old Gabriella Boyd was ruled a homicide by undetermined means, according to Martin Rosen, the attorney for the child's father, Stephen Boyd. Also in LOHUD, the lawyer for Cynthia Arce, the child's mother, appeared to concede his client caused the girl's death. Attorney Richard Portelet claimed Arce had been suffering from postpartum depression and bipolar disorder. Portelet said the court order granting custody to Gabriella's father may have been, quote, the straw that broke the camel's back, end quote. Boyd has set up a foundation in his daughter's memory to educate and help those facing difficulty in custody situations.
Do you know how to request our services? Just go to lmctv.org. Under the service banner, click Forms. In our Forms section, you can apply to be a volunteer, learn about membership, learn about corporate underwriting, request a bulletin board, coverage, DVD dubs, equipment, and PSAs. It's all a click away at lmctv.org.
Amy Siskind's book, The List, provides a week-by-week reckoning of President Trump's first year. Mike Witch interviewed the author in depth after her July 11th visit to the Mamaroneck Public Library.
Welcome to the Local Live, Amy Siskind. The list is about what exactly?
These are things that are not normal to our democracy, so not Republican, Democrat. These are things that are destructions of norms, minor or major, that stray from our democracy and our typical values.
How did you happen to start this project exactly right after Mr. Trump was elected?
I observed him during the campaign, and he never had a typical message in terms of policy and agenda that a Republican or Democrat would have. And after the time of the election, there was a spike in hate crimes and hatred of others. And as those reached record amounts from the Southern Poverty Law Center and the media was asking Trump to comment, he said we should have understanding of others, which was a common theme he's had throughout his time in office. So the things that he was doing to stoke hatred and hold people against each other to sort of come to power reminded me very much of authoritarianism. And so I read up on experts in authoritarianism and tried to take in their advice. I went up to Val Kill, Eleanor Roosevelt's home, and she's always been my North Star, and thought to myself, this is after the first full week after the election, what should I do? And one of the experts who wrote the foreword for my book, Sarah Kendzior, had spoke to the importance of writing things down, that change would be coming, but it would be slow and subtle. sort of you think about yourself being a frog in water coming to boil degree by degree, and that if we didn't have a record, she really encouraged everybody to write things down as we sit here today, November 16, 2016. And so I went home that night in November and started the first list, which had 9 items.
Well, Sarah also wrote in her foreword that the list may horrify you, but it should also reassure you. Well, how so?
Because one of the hallmarks of authoritarianism is disappearing information. And that was one of the reasons I chose to turn the lists into a book, was when we started talking about net neutrality, was for me the final push that access to information online was going to start to disappear for people. And that's what Sarah and other experts had warned about. And then we have, for example, Sinclair Broadcasting reaching 72% of homes, and for many people, their only source of news coverage now. So the act of documenting things and having the truth and having a trail to trace our way back to normalcy, I didn't recognize at the time, but about a year in, I recognized the importance of doing that exercise.
I read in the Washington Post, they called you a sentinel, expressing aggressive outrage as you see democratic structures in danger.
Yeah, and Sarah and I and some others were the early people to call out that this didn't feel right, that this didn't feel like a George Bush or a Barack Obama or a Reagan or a Clinton, that things were not normal. And if you look at what's happening today, it's a continuation of the same themes in the early weeks of the list, when Trump was not sure he was going to be part of NATO, to today, when he started off a day insulting one of our former closest allies. And so he's shifted the world order. And that's something that you could have seen in the early weeks. I've sort of been ahead of everything by 6 to 12 months. And I get compared to Cassandra, the mythological character who could see everything coming, but her curse was no one believed her. Well, people believe now, but the early weeks, and probably the first 6 months, everyone looked at us like we were nuts. But now everyone's come around to understanding we were right.
And you've continued to keep the list on a blog?
Yeah, so I have a website, theweeklylist.org. So the list continues. We're now in week 87. And I mentioned the first week was 9 items. As we closed out the book, which is 52 weeks, we were at 120 items. We're now in the range of 160 to 175 a week, not normal items. And also in week 81, I started a podcast to accompany the list, because the list has become so long and there's so much more chaos. I wanted to put in words for people to have a summary each week, what's happening. And it's been an incredibly useful tool for people to listen on their commute or while they're gardening or cooking dinner for 50 minutes and catch up on an entire week. And as well, I cover things that the media is not covering properly that I see is really important. And that's a way for me to give that some context.
Do you blame the media for all of this or not?
It's a very complicated question. So I think they do have a role in him winning, I say in quotes, winning the election. And I think that some have done a better job than others since he took office. Reuters, who's more international in focus, said early on that they were going to cover him as if it were a regime, an authoritarian regime. So they've been kind of uniquely positioned to not make the same mistakes like our media did in Singapore, where CNN had the countdown clock, as if it were the Super Bowl. And I could have predicted, just as I could have predicted at NATO and with the Putin summit, that he was going to alienate our allies, cozy up to dictators. It's the same thing he's been doing since week 1 of my list. And he was, going to continue to reshape the world order. So these things are all very predictable, but our media is still trying to cover him like he were a typical Republican or Democrat, which he is not.
Well, that's the mass media. What about the role of social media?
Social media is doing the majority of the heavy lifting here. And so when I mentioned people like Sarah and myself, we call out things, and the power of social media is drawing attention to things. And that was one of the reasons I started the podcast, is what was going on in our southern border, and our media was not covering that. And I did a huge event actually with Sarah out in Portland. We had over 400 people, and people were so upset about what was already this separation of migrant families and the treatment of those families as they crossed our border seeking asylum in most cases, but it was getting no coverage. And this had already, the zero tolerance policy at this point had been going on for 5 weeks. And so I really encouraged people to help me amplify through Twitter, because I have a huge following on Twitter, and everybody in Portland did, and other people. I had one tweet that had 50,000 retweets, and all the media follows me. And then that week, they finally started to cover they finally sent news crews down the week after Singapore, and that's when we had the executive order and change. So I think social media and the voice of people, which is why I did the list, that was Eleanor's call to me, that we, the people, are our government, and we have to speak up. And I see that we can do that through social media. There's so much influence there, and there's so much distrust in our media from both sides. And that's why my project is very simple, cut, dry facts. HBO did a documentary they filmed me at my home, and the guy said the beauty of this is it's very pedestrian and cut and dry. And it's a first draft of history in the era of Trump. It's just reliable sources, reputable news, and just you can draw your own conclusions.
As your book tour takes you down south and out west, do you anticipate the same reaction that you're getting up here in the Northeast?
You know, there's pockets everywhere, and the book was never meant to be marketed as a progressive book because it is being archived in the Library of Congress. It is a first draft of history, so there's use for it on both sides. It's really a trail map back to democracy. I would say my events tend to attract people that are Democrat, but that's, you know, not by design. That's just whoever is buying the book and showing up for events. I would encourage anyone and everyone, and I have done events where people that are Trump supporters have come as well, or people that are Republicans. I think being a Trump supporter and Republican, we have to take into account the base of Republicans have shrunk significantly. So even if you're one of the 80 or 90% that support him, 43% of our country is independent, and a lot of those were Republicans. So I think my hope is that it will engage a broad swath of people, and I am trying to, yes, I'm heading down to Alabama and Texas and places that, you know, want to hear about what's happening, to get, you know, a better sense than they're getting in the media of what I see happening.
One last question. Why do you think so much of Trump's base is still with him?
I think 35% of our country has a vision that our country should be as it was in the 1950s, that they don't like gay marriage, they don't like that brown and black people are in this country taking their jobs, they don't like that women are in the workforce and have some semblance of equality. And whatever you want to call those people, whether you call them racist, that in the first weeks were emboldened and continues, like I call now everyday racism, that people are calling the police on a 12-year-old boy delivering newspapers this week, or mowing the lawn last week, or throwing a brick at the face of somebody who, you know, was a Latino man, or yelling at someone, say, at a Puerto Rico T-shirt on July 4th. Trump is emboldened and sort of legitimized the worst of us. And that 35% is going to stay with him. But I don't view the construct anymore as Republican-Democrat. I view it as the people that are fighting for our democracy versus the people that are willing to go along with this battle against others and this dehumanization of others, which is what's happened at our southern border and in Puerto Rico. It's as if these people that are brown, their lives have no value. And there's people in our country that want that.
If you're right that the majority don't want that, are we going to be okay?
You know, it's hard to read the tea leaves exactly. I believe there's enough going on right now with various investigations that there's a decent chance you won't see 2020 and the re-election. Will our country be okay? Our country will be okay. It's just how long it's going to take to repair the damage. And every year in office for him, we're talking, it's exponential. You know, if he stays, every year he stays on my list, it gets longer and longer. The amount of norms being deconstructed every single day. His executive order today, changing administrative justices from being nonpartisan to being picked by his administration, he's slowly taking apart our democracy and our norms. So those are going to take years and perhaps decades, depending how long he stays in office, to change. But we're going to see a realignment of both parties as a result of that. You're already seeing that. And a redefinition. And so many things we learned in high school history that we were taught were checks and balances that we subsequently learned through Trump are norms, not laws. Those kind of things you'll see codified. You're starting to see that, for example, with tax returns in Rhode Island, passing legislation in their House that you have to supply 5 years of tax returns to be on our ballot. So those are the kind of things. We're going to see shifts. But we're in perilous times right now. I mean, I did one event up in Harvard bookstore with a historian from Boston College, and she put it best. She said, "We are on the razor's edge." You know, will we be okay eventually? Yes. But we are on the razor's edge right now, the longer he stays in power, of really losing our democracy and our values.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm a reporter, I'm a producer, I'm a writer.
I am a news anchor. I am a producer.
I am a news editor.
I am the technical director.
I am a reporter. I am an anchor.
I volunteer for the Local Live because I'm a proud resident of Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and I like to give back to the community.
I volunteer for the Local Live because I believe in bringing the news into your living room.
I volunteer for the Local Live because I believe in leadership, support, and success in a community.
I volunteer at the Local Live because it's a fun learning experience, and I know each week I come, I can learn something new.
I volunteer for the Local Live because I believe in community television.
As a spring intern at the Local Live, I learned new skills like video, editing, and production, and furthered my skills as a writer. The internship gave me confidence as I embarked on my journey through the world of journalism.
We are the Local Live.
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 Mamaroneck's Open Door Family Medical Center celebrated Christmas in July last week with Santa Claus, kicking off the season with giving with a twist.
We want to bring awareness to the issues of Community Health Center and the need for support for community health centers in Westchester and Putnam, which is where Open Door is. So while December is typically the season of giving, people can give all year round, and people can be aware of the importance of the work that we do on behalf of the community that we serve.
Hi, I'm Nancy Vincent. I am the owner of SEP Westchester here in Harbor Island Park, Mamaroneck, and we're super excited to have Open Door and Santa here today. Gonna spin your paddleboard around in one direction, other side, back to front.
That's right in the wave of good health.
So your leash is gonna go around your ankle. Your leash is just as important as your life jacket.
Everybody hashtag the Santa Cause.
Now switch sides, switch hands. Paddle on the other side, front to back.
I couldn't be prouder to be affiliated with Open Door Family Medical Centers. We keep Westchester healthy. Its importance is to make sure that everyone in our county feels respected, feels lifted up, and feels healthy to go about their day and do what they need to do.
The Bruce Beck Sports Broadcasting Camp recently expanded into Westchester and used this very studio here at LMC TV to give participants a taste of sports journalism. Our news director spoke to the veteran sports host and a couple of students.
Clear the set, quiet on the set, please.
Yeah, they went in order.
You know what I'm saying, Sam?
Sounds good.
Hi, I'm Bruce Beck, the lead sports anchor at WNBC TV and the host of the Bruce Beck Sports Broadcasting Camp.
So you've been in the business for years. Looking back on when you started to now, how has sports journalism changed?
It's changed a lot. First of all, we have the aspect of social media, which has changed everything. Everything's immediate. We did 2 camps this year. One was for the rookies, kids that really need the experience the first time around. And then we did a camp for veterans, kids that did our camp last year, or youngsters that have been at the collegiate level or have a great high school. So having 2 camps was able to kind of separate and give kids a chance for the first step, and the second time we're challenging you, expanding the curriculum.
How has this week been for you?
It's been a lot of fun. We've learned a lot and we've had a lot of new experiences.
Yeah, I agree. I learned a lot, and I think the on-camera work definitely is paying off.
I just love sports. I always have, and this just puts it in front of a camera.
Our kids learned the nuances of the sports broadcasting industry. The facilities were wonderful, and all the execution that went on in the control room. Our kids got a great experience. So this is a week that we'll look back on and say, hey, we want to do it again. LMC TV is our partner.
Give him 5.
On April 20th, LMC TV launched a fundraising community mural. You can see we are about halfway there. We would like to thank those who have donated so far. See how you can help.
LMC TV would like to thank local artist Jamie Lynn at Made, an art studio in Mamaroneck, for creating a beautiful community mural. Place your piece in this mural by contributing to LMC TV, the community connection that brings you local board meetings, varsity sports, and your local news. Please contribute to this community mural by going to our website and clicking on Donate. Each contributor will be listed next to the mural when it is complete. We value your appreciation of what we do. Become a single donor or as a group, go to lmctv.org. The only piece missing is you.
And here's what's happening around town. Mamaroneck Town is screening Freaky Friday with Jamie Lynn Curtis and Lindsay Lohan on Friday, August 3rd from 8:15 to 10:15 p.m. at Memorial Park. The event is free and kid-friendly. Bring a chair or a blanket along with food and drinks. UFC Mamaroneck is hosting a comedy fight club at the gym on Saturday, August 4th at 8 p.m. The entrance fee is $10 and there will be food, drinks, and a live DJ. For more information, visit ufcgym.com/Mamaroneck. My Art and Design Experience has summer art workshops still open throughout the month of August for ages 6 and up. Visit madeartstudio.com for more information. Bookends will perform on Monday, August 6th at 7 p.m. at Memorial Park. The band will play favorites from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, so bring a blanket or a chair and family and friends. The playground at Memorial Park will be open and food and drinks will also be on sale. It's time for Pet of the Week, provided by Pet Rescue. Marina was rescued with her 2 kittens, Captain and Hudson, by a pet rescue volunteer. She is sweet, affectionate 2-year-old who will melt your heart. 9-week-old sisters Coda and Chelsea and their brother Bruno are lovable lab mixes who are house and leash trained. These siblings play well with the other pup Gus, a 12-week-old shepherd mix who plays hard until he is ready for a long nap. For more information on Marina or the puppies, or if you want to check out any other adoptable pets, please visit ny-petrescue.org. And we love hearing from our viewers. Email comments and inquiries to The Local Live at lmctv.org. Thank you so much for watching The Local Live. I'm Kat Galliano, and we'll see you next week, where we'll be back on Mamaroneck Avenue live from the block party. Good night.